We're good to go.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular neighborhood board meeting, October 17th, for the Mililani, Mauka, Launani Valley Neighborhood Board 35. I call the meeting to order at this time and would like to ask Scout PSA Troop 664 to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Troop attention, color guard attention, color guard forward march. Mark time march. Right wheel march. Ready, halt. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready to. Color guard. Mark time march. Right wheel march. Forward march. Color guard dismiss. Troop dismissed. You may now be seated.
Okay, thank you very much, Troop 664. Before I move on this evening, I'd like to explain that I will be presiding over this meeting virtually. However, board members, first responders, and elected officials, as well as presenters, are also physically there at the cafeteria this evening. I'd like to thank Vice Chair Tamashiro for presiding over the meeting last month in my absence. And at this time, I'll turn it over to him to go over the meeting decorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, everyone. And on behalf of Chair Hazama and your members of your Mililani, Mauka, and Launani Neighborhood Board, again, we welcome, in terms of meeting decorum, all your ideas, your comments, your concerns, and your feedback. We just ask that you kindly raise your hand, be recognized by the chair, and then when motioned to, come up to the microphone and to speak into the microphone. And then for those that are joining us virtually, again, same thing. You can use the hand sign to be recognized by the chair. And then when given permission by him, please share your comments and concerns. And finally, we ask that if you could, so that we can get everyone's feedback, to limit it to about 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, back to you.
Hey, thank you, Vice Chair. Moving on to our monthly reports, the Honolulu Fire Department.
Aloha, everyone. I'm Firefighter Klingon. I'm with the Mililani Mauka Fire Station, and I have the statistical report for the month of October for the geographical area. During September, we had 1 structure fire, 1 activated alarm, 34 calls for medical assistance, and 2 motor vehicle crashes or collisions. The fire safety tip for this month is the National Fire Protection Association sponsors Fire Protection Week, which is observed from October 8th to the 14th of 2023. As the national campaign is promoted throughout the month of October, this year's theme is Cooking Safety Starts With You. Pay attention to fire prevention. Did you know cooking fires are the leading cause of home fires and home fire injuries? Unattended cooking is the leading cause of cooking fires and deaths. What can you do? The good news is you can prevent most cooking fires and burns. Help keep your family safer with these simple but effective tips. Turn pot handles toward the back of the stove. Always keep a lid nearby when cooking. If a small grease fire starts, slide the lid over the pan and turn off the burner. Watch what you heat. Set a timer to remind you of what you are cooking. Have a kid and pet-friendly zone of at least 3 feet around the stove in areas where hot food or drink is prepared or carried. Any questions, you can email the HFD's Community Relations Office at hfdnhb@honolulu.gov. Does anyone else have anything for me?
Thank you. Any questions for the Honolulu Fire Department this evening? Anyone online? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Moving on to the Honolulu Police Department.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, Vice Chair, and our board
Evening.
members and our community members. My name is Tim Inuma with the Honolulu Police Department. And to begin this presentation, I just want to give off the safety tip for the month. As we know, this month is Halloween. So for those in the audience or those at home who's going to go Halloween, please, for our parents who have kids going out, please examine the candy first before eating it. Travel in groups/pairs. And if you are a parent, you are a responsible adult, please be with the kids going out so that they're safe, so that nothing bad happens to them. And wear light color clothing, as well as have a reflector if you do wear a dark Halloween costume that you cannot wear light clothing. Carry a flashlight. And for our adults, again, anyone over 21, please don't drink and drive. Stay home if you are drunk. And if you're curious about what's happening in your community, just go on honolulupd.org, crime mapping. We also did come out, the department did come out with a new data program on honolulupd.org where you can actually get the more detailed analysis of the crimes happening in the Mililani, such as assaults, burglaries, etc. Other than that, do I have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for the Honolulu Police Department this evening? Anyone online? No. If not, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Board of Water Supply. I see Kathleen's on. Aloha.
Aloha, Chair. Thank you, board members. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chair. No major report in our community this past month. And again, we would just like to remind everybody about our Imagine a Day Without Water event this Saturday at the Wahiawa Freshwater Park off of Walker Avenue. We really hope you will all join us. We have a lot of different agencies going to be there, both city and state, and some other nonprofits. And we think it'll be a great time and a really good event. That's my report. Any questions?
Thank you, Kathleen. Any questions for Board of Water Supply this evening? Anyone online? Okay, mahalo. Thank you, Kathleen. All
Mahalo. Take care. Aloha.
right, moving on to our military representative this evening.
Good evening, Chair, Neighborhood Board, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Anslos, military.
Hey, welcome back, Colonel, from Australia.
Thanks a lot, Dean. I appreciate it. Your announcements for this month, November job fair. The U.S. Army Garrison Hawaii is holding its next hiring fair on November 28th, 2023 at Airport Honolulu Hotel, located off of Nimitz Highway, beginning at 8:30 a.m. and ending at 2 p.m. This is open to the public. There will be job officers and provisional hiring the day of the job fair. Advanced applicants may go to www.himwr.com, click on the employment banner to learn of openings and how to apply online. Walk-ins are welcomed and should bring 2 references, proof of ID, social security card, resume, or application. There are opportunities in business operations like golf, bowling, food service, and many more. The Child Youth Services, or CYS, will have openings to consider. For those who work in CYS, there are a variety of benefits such as retirement, access to all recreational facilities, discounted childcare, training, and commissary and PX privileges. If you're interested in the work with children, we have a position for you. Come on out and see what is available. Employment opportunities await. 25th ID will be executing the Joint Pacific Multinational Readiness Center 24-01 in coordination with the Joint Pacific Multinational Readiness Center and the 196th Infantry Brigade, primarily from November 1st to the 10th on Oahu and Hawaii Island. During that time, residents will experience increased military convoy traffic on the roads and military aircraft overflights. The majority of military training locations are on the northern portion of Oahu and some central island. However, residents will still see troops traveling to and from the training areas. We expect to see increased low-flying helicopters over the training areas and fixed-wing aircraft flown into Wheeler Army Airfield and Dillingham Military Reservation. This exercise is critical to U.S. military to prepare and validate 25th ID's ability to deploy, fight, and win in combat operations across the Indo-Pacific. If required, and if you have questions or required additional information, you can contact 808-656-3487. Overall, this is enduring. The Army and the 25th ID strive to maintain open and honest communication with the local community. 25th ID and USAG Hawaii will proactively share training and noise advisories to inform the local community and mitigate concern, uncertainty, and misinformation. JPMRC is critical to our military readiness, and we appreciate your patience and understanding. 25th ID will make every effort to reduce burdens on the local community, including helicopter noise. Where we can't reduce the friction due to operational requirements, we will continue to inform the local government, media, neighborhood boards, and post updates on our social media sites. Training will include the use of blank ammunition and explosive simulators during daytime and nighttime hours in the following areas. On the Big Island at Puhakoloa Training Area, Oahu, Bellows Air Force Station, Dillingham Army Airfield, Kahuku Training Area, Kawailoa Mountain Ranges, Helamano Plantation, and Schofield Barracks East and South Ranges. Training may occur outside these primary training areas and other military training areas as well. Intermittent military vehicle convoys of 6 or more military vehicles will travel between training areas on Oahu. Exact times and routes will vary based on the training scenario. Military units will make every available effort to mitigate convoys and conduct them at times that won't significantly impact residents and communities. The 25th Infantry Division appreciates the community's understanding and continued support for local military training. Along with Operation Pathways, JPMRC 24-01 facilitates unit readiness in the region and allows commanders to train their forces in realistic environments and conditions where they are most likely to campaign and be employed in the event of crisis or conflict. While sometimes loud, the sounds of training represents how the military ensures the nation's service members are ready to accomplish the mission and return home safely. Subject to anybody's questions.
Thank you, Colonel. Any questions for our military rep this evening?
I have a question, Chair.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Can you just repeat the phone number if people had?
Oh, I am no problem at all. The phone number is 808-656-3487.
And then is this across all, who's participating? Which?
So
is it
the
just RP?
predominant training force is going to be the 25th Infantry Division based out of Schofield. However, we will have representation from other nationalities that will actually be on island and training with 25th Infantry Division.
Okay, Teresa, you have any other questions?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the military representative this evening? Anyone online? Okay, if not, thank you very much, Colonel. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good night.
Take care. All right, board members, we'll move on to board business this evening. We have the filling of one board vacancy at large. Are there any members in attendance or I guess online that are interested in filling this vacancy? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to a certificate of recognition. We'll have Alice Rogers, our recognition chair, and we'll call up Mililani High School's representative. I think Chris Aguinaldo is there this evening. You can come up to the microphone, please. Alice, if you can read the certificate.
Yes, sir.
Aloha, Chair Hazama. It's actually Fred Murphy from Mililani High School.
Oh, I'm sorry, Fred.
Oh, no worries. Nice to see you online.
All right. Chris,
Okay,
Chris sent me an email, said he was going to be there.
You're
so-
Chris?
No, I'm Fred.
No, it's Principal Fred Murphy.
Whatever. I've got one of you, right? Okay. In the newspaper, now I'm having a brain fade again. That weekly paper that comes out within the Star Advertiser, I saw an article about Mililani High School having a 50th birthday. And sitting right in front of that picture among, I believe Trish was there, Val was there. Seems to me somebody else was there, but I don't remember who. Marilyn Lee, who happens to be here tonight, was right in the front of that picture. Anyway, I requested that a certificate be made because I think it's quite an achievement to make 50 years, okay? So it says Certificate of Recognition, Mililani Mauka, Launani Valley, Neighborhood Board number 35, congratulates Mililani High School on 50 years of being a valuable member of the Mililani community and being a positive force in shaping the lives of many students and the future of our city, state, and nation. And it's signed by our chair, Dean Hazama, and the executive secretary. And I'd like to present this to you.
Thank you very much. It's beautiful.
Alice, then we'll take one more picture.
And if everyone didn't know, I mentioned this at the last meeting. The neighborhood boards have been around for 50 years as well. So 1973, right? Yeah. So good job,
So
everyone.
I don't know if Fred's still up there, but a lot of people don't know that Fred Murphy actually is a graduate of Mililani High School. Um, I don't know if you were there the first year of the school. I don't think you
Oh, I
were.
graduated in 1988, so
Yeah.
12th graduating class.
Yeah, but Principal Murphy is actually a graduate of Mililani High School, so that's a amazing thing. So congratulations, and again, we value Mililani High School as a partner in the community. It's been that way for many, many years, and we thank you guys for all that you do for our kids and our community. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And yeah,
Okay, moving on. We have a presentation this evening regarding the Albizia Tree Control Program. Alana Miyashiro, who's the part of the Ko'olau Mountains Watershed Partnership.
Chair, sorry, you skipped
I'm
over
sorry.
parade.
Go ahead.
The Christmas parade, you jumped one.
Oh,
item.
I'm sorry. I skipped over one. Okay. 2023 Mililani Christmas Parade, Marilyn Lee from the Mililani Lions Club.
The Mililani Lions Club. Good evening, Chair Hazama and members of the
Good evening.
board. Happy to be here. And I'm also a member of Neighborhood Board 25 down the hill. Okay, we're very excited to announce the 36th annual Mililani Hawaiian Holiday Parade presented by the Mililani Lions and sponsored by the Town Center of Mililani and Mililani Shopping Center. So to begin the holiday season, our club and the Town Center of Mililani and the Shopping Center invite you or your organization to participate. And the deadline to apply is November 1st, so it's coming up very soon. Your chair should have a copy someplace in his file of an application, but if you don't, you can always call me up. The parade, again, is Saturday, December 2nd, 2023. The lineup starts at Mililani High School Stadium, and it begins at 7 a.m. That seems really early, but there's a lot of people participating, so they all have to get organized and get their lei and get their floats. This is really a big deal. The parade starts at 9 a.m. from Mililani High School Stadium on Kipapa Drive toward Mililani Shopping Center. And it goes around past the Mililani Shopping Center. And then it goes all the way up Mehi'ula Avenue and goes to the town center. The cost of it is free. So that's another nice thing to know. So if you would like to participate in the parade, you'll find the appropriate documents. And this is kind of a complicated website, but I'll read it to you anyhow. I'll read it slowly. https://tin.in/3e85x_t_b_w/. And if you forget that, you can call me up or you can call up your chair. This year, in a coordination with the Hawaii Food Bank, we're asking that you consider an optional donation of canned goods, a box of canned goods. The most wanted items are canned meats, fruits, vegetables, and soups. Bring your donations with you when you check in on December 2nd at the Mililani High School Stadium. And if you're not in the parade, you can still bring it there. Donations will also be accepted at designated locations at the Town Center of Mililani. There is a map available, but I think it's pretty, most of you have been there in the past, so you kind of know the route. But if you need a map, that's also online on that website. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Marilyn. Any questions for Marilyn and Mililani Lions Club regarding the Christmas parade?
Okay, thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Thank you, Marilyn. Okay, moving on to the Albizia Control Program presentation by Alana Miyashiro.
Okay. Aloha Chair Hazama and
Aloha.
board. My name is Alana Miyashiro, and I am the Outreach Associate for the Ko'olau Mountains Watershed Partnership. We are an organization within the University of Hawaii, and we do conservation throughout the Ko'olau Mountains. Today, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about our Albizia community programming and how that works. So next slide, please. So Albizia is the common name. The scientific name is Falcateria mollicana. It is native to Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, the Solomon Islands, but it is not native here. It was introduced to Hawaii in 1917 to kind of reforest after the deforestation of the sandalwood trade and other agricultural crops in the 1800s. It can grow 15 feet per year, and it grows over 100 feet tall, making it here in Hawaii the fastest growing tree in the world. Next slide, please. So the problem with Albizia is that it has these really brittle branches and very shallow roots, meaning that it is a tree that grows very tall, but with any storm event or wind event, it will fall, or its branches will fall. So you can kind of see these pictures here, its impact here in Hawaii, falling on homes and power lines, making it detrimental not only to our native ecosystems, but also to our communities. So as you can see in the bottom here, the increase in albizia trees and the increase in storms means the increase in costs and damage to our communities. So as most of you might already know, albizia is widespread here in Mililani, Mauka, as well as Launani Valley. I took these pictures through Google Images, and through training, we can actually see that the albizia are really easy to spot within like this overhead satellite imagery. It has like these flat tops that look very different from any other tree. So you can see here outlined in the red, that is all albizia. And these images are taken in Mililani Mauka as well as Launani Valley. And you can see that they grow very, very close in these like streams and gulches right next to homes. So you can keep going. And this image right over here is pretty impactful, I think, because as you can see that giant block right over there at the top, that super densely packed green imagery, that is all albizia. And if albizia is not kept under control, a lot of the areas, especially here, will look like that. And so here you can see it's a little hard to tell on the screen, but the outline in red, that is the outline of the Mililani Mauka and Launani Valley District. And pretty much every green that you see is abundant in albizia. And so I've taken some other street view images, and you can see in the red, all those flat topped looking trees are albizia. And a lot of these are growing over different like community infrastructure, like this one is roads. Next slide. This one over here, these albizia, these are growing over sidewalks. And these ones are growing over the tennis courts. So super scary. And if you were underneath these at any moment, like these branches could fall. And so hopefully through these images, you can kind of see even without the marking where the albizia kind of lie. This is in Mililani Mauka. And I kind of had to crop out the house, but one of those trees is actually growing over someone's backyard. Just to talk a little bit about the life cycle of albizia, like I said, it is the fastest growing tree here in Hawaii. So the smaller one is less than a year old. The second largest one is a year old, and the largest one is only 3 years old. So these trees grow extremely fast. And as these trees grow bigger, they get more expensive to remove. When you have a mature tree over 30 feet, they can cost at least $10,000 to remove completely, making it almost impossible for any average homeowner to remove on their own, even if they're growing over their homes. And this is just another diagram of the cost of Albizia. So when you get them very young, they cost virtually free. You can just hand pull them, or there are other non-herbicide or herbicide ways to remove them. But once they get 3 to 5 years old, these can cost enormous amounts. There are different methods to removing them, whether you're interested in using any sort of herbicide or not, and they are 100% effective either way, depending on what size the tree is. The first one I want to talk about is ring barking. This is a non-herbicide method. It's where you cut a ring around the tree and completely strip the bark all the way to the ground. So if you click a little bit, then it will show the slides a little bit. Yeah. So you would just need some sort of handsaw or machete, just cut all the way into the inner layer of the bark and peel. And it should take around 1 year for full mortality. And you're not using any herbicide. I would like to say too, if you are interested in doing any of these sort of methods, to please not do them on any hazard trees. Hazard trees would be considered anything growing above homes or roads or power lines, because even if you want to take this tree out, eventually those branches are going to fall, and you don't want to do that in front of someone's house. If you are interested in using some sort of herbicide application, you can do this thing called IPA, or incision point application, where you cut notches along the tree and then you do a little bit of herbicide, just like less than like 1/8 of a teaspoon in each notch, and it should completely kill the tree within 6 months to a year. Again, do not use this on hazard trees. And talking a little bit about what is considered a hazard tree and what isn't. So a non-hazard tree would be considered anything less than 15 feet, or if the tree height is 1.5 times the distance from roads, structures, homes, things like that. So it's a little hard to tell, but you can kind of see if something is far away from the house, it's more than 1.5 times its height, then it's considered a non-hazard tree. And so just to give an example, this bigger albizia next to the road, can you treat this tree? You can click it. No, you cannot treat this tree, but if you click next, the one behind it would be considered a safe tree to treat. So this map here, everything in yellow are the areas considered infested with albizia. Here in central Oahu, it is heavily infested all the way through the Wahiawa area. And so our goal as KMWP is to go throughout these communities where there are high amounts of albizia and inform the community about how to identify them, as well as different methods of control that they can use in their own properties. And so our current management efforts are in our upper watershed, our Mauka areas. We have targeted albizia control that our field team goes out and does. They got into these higher upper mountainous areas and basically hit tree by tree, killing them. Information sharing through our mailers. We send out mailers to communities, implying that they may have albizia within their properties, and do presentations like what I'm doing today. And then we have our RAD, or Rapid Albizia Death Communities, which is a play on Rapid Ohia Death, but we want Rapid Albizia Death. And so we have these communities all over the islands. We have established ones in Manoa, as well as Waihole. We've just done our first workshop in Kalihi Valley, and we're also planning on doing one in Palolo. So for one example of our RAD communities, we have Manoa. And you see that like all of those dotted areas right over there are albizia. And on the right are pictures of one of our field crew doing albizia control. And so looking at this, you would see a bunch of albizia, all of these flat top trees. They kind of stick out and look very different from everything else. But after our field team goes in and does their magic, if you click next, all of those white skeleton looking trees, those are all now dead albizia. So our field team works very hard to go out there and actually tackle the problem head on. And we do a lot of information sharing like this. One of our main goals is to do community workshops. So the reason why I'm here in Mililani Mauka today is because I would like to look into what possibilities would be to do a workshop here. Our workshop is kind of like the first stepping stone into creating sort of a rad community here, where we invite people from the community. We teach them how to identify it in like real time. We teach them and demonstrate different control methods with our field crew, and kind of empower the community to take this problem head on, because they want to catch these trees very small until, you know, they're 30 feet and growing over their homes and they didn't even realize it. And now it takes $15,000 to remove. So ideally, like in our Manoa Rad community, we have sort of like a person of contact or a liaison. And they are that person who lives within the community, knows a lot of people in the community, are connected. And they gather people to these sorts of workshop events. And also in Manoa, we do stream sweeps where we walk along the stream and actually pull and remove albizia seedlings. So they're also the ones kind of gathering those volunteers and disseminating that information, basically. And so that's something that we kind of like to do all over the island. And so thinking about what landowners can do, because it seems like a very big problem, the first thing is to learn how to identify albizia trees. When they're really big, it's easy to tell what's albizia and what's not. But when they're younger, they look like a lot of other invasive species like haulekoa and things like that. So acting fast will save you money. Young albizia trees are easy to pull or to control. And you kind of have this 2-year window until removal costs start to rise exponentially. And then it's informing your neighbors and your community associations. So if you see albizia growing in your neighbor's yard or anything like that, it's really helpful to notify them about it because they may not even know it's there. And then definitely talking to your local legislator about albizia issues in your area. It's super cool to see a legislation really passionate about this issue. We are doing a stream sweep in Manoa recently, or in the upcoming month. And we have Representative Andrew Garrett joining us and supporting us, which is super cool. And there are these large albizia growing in the stream. And so one of the things he's trying to do is introduce legislation to kind of pull funds into DLNR to hire a contractor to remove these larger albizia that, you know, anyone on, like, people who have it on their property can't afford to remove it themselves. So super cool. And so these are just examples of younger albizia. Yeah, they look super similar to things like haulekoa, and they'll just be growing right next to the walls. Albizia seedlings love like open sunlight. And so in these areas where there's like the transitional from forest to urban areas, which is like people's yards and parks and things like that, those are going to be the #1 areas where albizia seedlings sprout. And another thing too is you don't want to just like, you want a professional to remove these larger trees, like a certified arborist, because if you go in and kind of manage these trees on your own and you aren't very familiar on how they work, these trees over here in Manoa were actually just chopped off at the top without doing any sort of like proper herbicide or anything like that. And they just immediately started to grow back. So that was the end of my presentation. I kind of ran through it just for time, but if you have any questions or, you know, are interested in looking into workshops and things like that for the community, please talk to me afterwards. Thank you.
Oops. Go. Okay, thank you, Alana. Any questions for Alana this evening?
use the microphone?
Oh.
Yeah, we're gonna get around. We should be okay.
Hello?
1 second, Chair. We're just giving Alice a microphone.
Okay. Oh. Still not working.
Alice, I'm sorry. Here you go.
All right, let me go again. Does it spread by roots or by seeds from the tree?
It actually spreads by seeds. So Albizia is actually part of the bean family. So it'll make these like brown looking seed pods similar to like monkey pod or halicoa. And it creates a large amount of seeds that are dispersed by wind. So when the large winds come and blow through, it'll blow seeds for miles.
And is the wood usable for any reason?
It is a very light and not dense wood, so it doesn't make it very, I guess, attractive for lumber and things like that. The difficult part is there have been movements to use Albizia wood. The problem is that you're taking these large trees and there are no means to remove them from the forest. So like, large infrastructure, and we also don't have a lot of like commercial mills here on Oahu.
And the last question is, there's a whole bunch of Albizia down here off the freeway. Now, I don't know what that valley is exactly in between, but there is loads of Albizia down there. I know that it's all over the place. So, oh, I thought I was. All right. Anyway, so, and along the freeway, you already removed, or somebody did, a lot of the Albizia, but some of them still way on the top. But I guess you figured out that if they fell, it would not hit the freeway. It would hit the sides of the freeway. But there is a great deal of Albizia down in that valley. And does anybody know what the name of that valley is? I don't know what it is.
That might be Kipapa Gulch.
Thank you. That's what it is. I'm having a problem there. Anyway, but is that on the list at all of work?
Yeah, so that area is actually privately owned. I'm not sure exactly who the owner is for that gulch, but because it's privately owned, organizations like us aren't allowed to go into those areas to control it.
So compared to like the native growth areas like Papua New Guinea, etc., like how do we compare to it? And is it a problem there?
Well, we do have very similar climates to those areas. The problem is that those trees have evolved millions of years in those environments, which means that there are natural plant predators and also like natural biocontrols and things like that that kind of put the tree in these checks and balances. And so when you introduce these trees into our ecosystems where our native plants have not adapted to these types of trees, they are very susceptible to being taken over. Another thing too is Albizia is a nitrogen fixer, which means that it kind of thrives in these like low nutrient soils, which is what Hawaii is mostly comprised of.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Teresa.
Yeah. Well, a couple of suggestions. So within Mililani and Launani Valley, we are planned communities, unlike other areas that they don't have master associations or homeowner associations. A lot of us also have sub associations. So I think the biggest asset would be for you to do presentations, but make sure that you're inviting the master association of Mililani Town. If there are smaller community associations, sub associations that are along those troubled areas, contacting those associations, but getting their landscaping division involved, because those are the guys that have to go in. So Launani Valley, we each take care of what's on our individual properties, but the master association takes everything that's along the mountainside, which is the lower portion of Mililani Mauka. The concern I had recently was that they started work and then the contractor kind of bailed halfway through. My concern is that when you folks are doing the death and removal or what have you. And we noticed it was green and then it's not green. So what takes the place of that vegetation could be an issue if you're doing it within an area like Launani Valley, where we have mountain slide happening. The removal of vegetation allows for the soil to slide down into people's yards. It's not so much the tree itself, but it's everything that comes down the mountain when you take out that root, even though it's a shallow root system. So I think those are things to take into consideration. Also, acacia koa, which is our native koa. This is great, but if you don't get your hands in there and know the difference, I mean, the leaves are so subtly different with cluster for albizia, but again, taking a keiki that you think you might be pulling up albizia and you could be pulling up acacia. And so that is a concern for me as a native. This is great information, but I think I don't want people to get overly zealous. Like, hey, I see all these things in my yard. Let me just yank them up. I think we have to be tentative, but having a community, meeting or what have you, but involving certain parties is really important, because you can talk to me as a homeowner. I don't take care of the yard and landscaping. That's someone else that we pay to have taken care of. But again, if they're not bringing in people, you can have an arborist, but if they're not bringing in people who are there to eradicate albizia for the point of removing because it's dangerous and it's taking over our ecosystem, that's what's been the issue in our valley. I mean, the $10,000 one tree, they're taking out 30 trees at a time, right? That it is what it is. But I think if you're just bringing in a guy who climbs a tree and cuts it down, they're not looking at the bigger picture. Are they replacing? They cut 30 or 40 trees down and they just let them lay on the side of the mountain. So now you have all these big chunks. You have photos, but if you go down into Launani Valley, you will see the whole side is almost barren now. So we're just waiting for somebody's house from Mililani Mauka to fall down the mountainside. But this is great. It's important to get into those communities that have this issue, including Wahiwa, because they sit on the backside. Military land, obviously, where they're training. It would be great to have partnership with our military brothers and sisters when it comes into their land areas as well, and getting that support, I think, is important. But thank you for coming and making it known that you folks exist. I know you folks exist because I have friends that work in forestry. But I'm glad you're here, because as you see, it's very dense, the albizia in our backyards. I mean, literally, I see it. We have some right next to where our picnic tables are. And every time there's a wind, you see it just crack a little more. So thank you for being here. But I'll talk with you after to get some content.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And one of the reasons why I came to the neighborhood board meeting is to hopefully gain connections and contacts within you guys, because I'm not going to name specific names, but I have tried to contact certain town or neighborhood associations regarding albizia and seeing if they were interested in hosting a workshop. And I flat out they weren't interested. So I'm hoping that, letting these people in the community know, and hopefully if a lot of people care about this issue, that these associations would hopefully change their mind.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Alana this evening? Anybody online? Questions? Alana, I got a couple questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
So if if the private landowner gives you guys permission to go on their land and do this treatment, are you guys able to do that?
Yes, so we do have private landowners who are partners with us. For example, one of them would be the Ko'olau Ballrooms. They're also now owned by the First Presbyterian Church, but we've actually gone in there, taught their staff how to identify and control albizia within their gigantic property, and now they host their own community workshops where they get their own volunteers and do it themselves. So it's super cool, and it's possible.
Okay. And I think a lot of this came up. I think a couple of years ago, there was that tropical storm on the Big Island, and it pretty much took down, everything. Most of those trees were albizas, I believe. So, I think the landowners have a big stake in this, because eventually if something happens, the tree's on their property and it falls into somebody's house or yard or whatever, then they become liable for damages and things like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. If someone has a large tree on their property and it falls on someone else's property, they are 100% liable for that.
Yeah. So I mean, in forested areas where there's nobody living except the trees themselves, they fall down, and obviously it could become, like Teresa said, a landslide issue. But other than that, they've got to figure something out. But I think because we have so much property surrounded by that, it would be good for us to have some workshops and see what we can do for at least areas where there are hazard trees and possible damage possibility for people's homes and such. So okay, all right, but I'll be in touch with you, Alana, and I'm sure some of the board members will. If there are no other questions, we can move on. So thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on this evening to any residents or community concerns. Do we have any residents or community concerns this evening? Anyone online? Okay, seeing or hearing none, we'll move on to our elected officials report. The office of Governor Josh Green. Randy Martin's on vacation, so I believe Tony's there.
Yeah, I'm here. Tony.
Hey.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Tony Schwartz. I'm here representing the governor's office. You're right, Melanie Martin isn't able to be here tonight. So also I'll probably switch out with her, cover for her next month as well. I brought with me the governor's newsletter, and I noticed they do have them over here at the table. You can also find it at the governor.hawaii.gov. In his newsletter, he did focus on the purchase of 5 new EV buses. They include school buses as well as charter coach buses for tourism. The State Energy Office, Hawaii Department of Health, and Roberts Hawaii recently debuted and blessed 5 new zero-emission electric battery buses to provide clean transport for keiki going to school and tourists on Oahu. They become the first of their kind tour charter EV motor coaches in the country. The buses were purchased with the assistance of the Diesel Replacement Rebate DRR program, funded by Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust, and the program administered by HSEO, Hawaii State Energy Office, in partnership with the DOH, United States Environmental Protection Agency, allocated approximately $3.2 million in rebates to help offset the purchase of 8 vehicles. So it's actually 7 buses and 1 forklift to support renewable energy. The 5 buses that debuted in July were purchased in 2022, and the remaining 3, 2 and a forklift, will be purchased through the second year of the rebate program. So he wanted to focus on that, being that we're now, I guess, leaders in the country on this effort. He also has a section that talks about wellness and mental health. In the early hours, the early days of the Maui wildfire, his Office of Wellness and Resilience director sent an email out to many colleagues to have a meeting to discuss mental health and how to help people. And they were surprised to see 250 people show up on the meeting, the Zoom meeting. Since then, they've partnered with the Department of Health, Queens Health System, Kaiser, Permanente, to do talk, story, and support events. Mental health services have been made available for all ages at West Maui hotel shelters every day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The support ranges from simply listening to people, to the survivors and hearing their stories, to resource navigation and referrals, to more long-term support. And more than 200 mental health professionals on Maui and across the state have volunteered to provide these services to help those who feel they might need mental health support. So they also have created mental health pop-ups. They're happening around natural gathering places in West Maui, and there's also crisis mobile outreach via DOH available for those who need urgent help. So basically, this is a service that's actually available statewide, but right now it's focused on Maui and the survivors of that fire. But it's through Hawaii Cares, Hawaii Cares 988. You can actually call or text them anytime, talk to local counselors. They put out a public service announcement with the help of Summit Media Group. In general, the message is, if you are not feeling like yourself right now, that's normal. Talk to someone, connect with loved ones, talk to someone on the phone or text. And if you need someone to talk to or someone you know is in crisis, reach out. So they give a few different numbers and ways to do that. And again, it's in the newsletter, those numbers. I can read them off to you as well. You can also find it on the webpage, but Hawaii Cares 988. You call 808-832-3100 or text 988 to 1-800-753-6879. There's also a disaster distress helpline. It's free 24/7 for crisis and emotional support. You can call 1-800-985-5990 or text talk with us to 66746. Again, all of that, those numbers are in the newsletter on his webpage as well as here on the table. And that's all I have for now. If anyone has questions.
Thank you, Tony. Any questions for the governor's office this evening? Anyone online? Tony, I don't know if Mel was able to forward my email to you regarding the DOE facilities representative. through the
DOE?
board. Yeah, so we wanted to get an update on the new parking lot at the middle school as far as usage and what the agreement is. It was a little bit kind of tight for this meeting, but maybe for our next board meeting, November 21st, if we can get a rep out from the DOE.
For the MOU? Okay. All right. I will check. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Take care. Okay, moving on to Congressman Ed Case's office. Good evening, Nestor. Aloha.
Chairman Hazama, Vice Chair, members of the board. The third quarter report from the Congressman has been placed in the chat as well for those online, and I'm not sure if you can see on the screen, but I'm going to go over it very quickly. First, the Congressman wants constituents to know that he's still continuing to see how we can mitigate the disruptions that come with commercial tour helicopters. I know that this board has had to deal with military aviation noise, but it's the bulk of complaints that at least our office receives is from commercial tour helicopters. So the FAA came out with some proposed rules that would take effect next spring. This covers the gamut from minimum altitude of 1,500 feet above ground, which Congressman feels is not high enough. The frequency of operations, the routes of the tour helicopters, the equipment that the tour helicopters carry with them, especially as it comes to trying to identify their location, transponders and the like. So the Congressman issued his comments. There were several other people across the state, actually, that issued mostly negative comments about the proposed rules, and we'll see what the FAA does with that come next spring. As you know, the congressional delegation is doing what they can to see if they can continue with federal funding for those affected by the Maui wildfires. Congressman also wants people to know, businesses here on Oahu and other counties aside from Maui County, that businesses that were affected by the Maui wildfires, for instance, businesses that supply the hotels, businesses that are located in Honolulu that supply the hotels, which are affected by the Maui wildfires. Businesses that supply businesses in Lahaina are affected by the Maui wildfires. They can, these businesses outside of Maui can apply for small business assistance. Now, there is a business recovery center, small business administration Recovery Center, which is located at the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone number 9. So for those businesses that want to apply for assistance that were affected by the Maui wildfires, can go to the Foreign Trade Zone and see if they can apply for assistance. I think the deadline to apply for that kind of assistance is sometime in May of next year, if I'm not mistaken. Congressman also wants constituents to know that his office does take care of individual concerns. For example, while I mostly deal with community outreach and the media, I also take care of individual concerns. For those who are veterans, for example, who have concerns about getting their benefits, getting their treatment, I take care of the veterans here in the congressional district. I take care of retirees who have a problem with Office of Personnel Management. They're not getting their retirement annuity monthly checks. They have a problem with their health benefits. I deal with the Office of Personnel Management for those people. So that's called casework. It's not named after Congressman Case, but those are the kinds of things that the Congressman would like to remind his constituents, that we do a lot of our work to take care of individual concerns. Speaking of veterans, Chairman, we have just put together at the last minute. There's going to be a talk story or a community meeting, a town hall, if you will, for veterans. This is going to be held at November 4th. That's Saturday. Starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll run till about 10:30 till 11 o'clock if we have to. This will be held at the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Memorial Hall at Kei Lagoon. So for those veterans who have a concern, they want to raise an issue with the Congressman, November 4th, Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning, be there. We'll come out with a newsletter for veterans sometime next week. With that, one last thing, Chairman. There's going to be a deadline for those that want to, students actually, sorry, those in high school and middle school students that want to participate in the annual Congressional App Challenge. So the deadline to submit apps for consideration in this contest. It can be an individual or a team of 4 students, 2 of which have to go to school in the congressional district. For example, Mililani Middle School, Mililani High School. The deadline is November 1st, I believe. But anyway, if there are any specific questions for the Congressional App Challenge contest, you can call our office at 808-650-6688. With that, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, open to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Nestor. Any questions for Congressman Case's office this evening? Anyone online? Hey, Nestor, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
With all the issues that the House is having now, how long can Congress legally extend the CRA?
The continuing resolution, as you know, is going to expire November 17th. Now, for those who have been following current events, I know that the vote did not work today to select a new chairman. They're going to try again tomorrow. A new speaker, I should say. They're going to try again tomorrow. They're Republican majority. Now, there's been a some kind of a compromise solution. I'm not quite sure if it'll go over well with the majority, but this compromise has actually been led by people like Congressman Ed Case. What he would do is to give the power of the speaker to the one that is currently occupying the chair in a temporary status. That would be Congressman Patrick McHenry. To give him the power of the speaker for 30 days. For 30 days. The speaker has the power. The House cannot do anything without the speaker. Okay. He schedules all the votes on the floor. For example, anything that has to do with, trying to get aid to Israel, for example, or even the $16 billion that we need for the Federal Emergency Management Agency and disaster recovery relief, not just for Launani, but for all the other communities that suffered disasters. We really need that kind of legislation to move. And without the House and without a speaker, you can't do anything. So there's that compromise that's being floated by people like Congressman Ed Case. We'll see what happens tomorrow, though. We'll see how that vote goes. I know that he was short 20 votes today, but that's Congressman Jordan. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it could chip away at the 20. But remember now, back in January, it took 15 rounds of voting for Speaker McCarthy to be elected. So we'll see how it goes, Chairman.
Okay. Worst case scenario, though, they could extend it beyond the 17th without a speaker, or they're not able to.
No, you need this. You need a speaker. You need somebody
Okay.
acting with the power of a speaker to actually hold anything on the floor. He's the
Okay.
one that schedules the votes, no one else. So that's the House. The Senate actually obviously is waiting to see what the House does. So
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate it, Nestor.
okay.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Office of Mayor Blangiardi. Carrie.
Morning, Chair. Sorry, good evening, Chair. Good evening, board members and community of Mililani, Mauka. Carrie Capsule, Deputy Director with Budget and Fiscal Services Department, representing Mayor Blangiardi this evening. I'd like to quickly share the mayor's October newsletter, which can be found at oneoahu.org. In this edition, probably one of the things that I'd really like to highlight is the Safe and Sound program that has now been in effect for a year in Waikiki. And the results of this program have been very, quite beneficial. I'll share some statistics from the Honolulu Police Department. In the year-to-year reporting, burglaries are down 32%. Criminal property damage are down 28%. Reports of unauthorized entries into motor vehicles are down 32%, and reports of theft are down 6%. So the program has made a difference, will continue to make a difference, and we'll like to see this program expanded to other areas throughout the island. One of the resolutions that City Council presented today, I think for many of us, if not all of us, top of mind is what happened to our friends and loved ones on Maui and the devastation that they face and are continuing to face, for the last going on almost 2 months now. The City Council introduced today a resolution requesting the administration to present a budget recommendations that will address long-term emergency preparedness for the city and county of Honolulu. I'm perhaps Councilmember Wyer's representative can speak more to that because Councilmember Wyer was a co-introducer of this resolution along with Councilmember Cordero. Wanted to also share that Mayor Blangiardi, Managing Director, all of our city departments, along with the state's DLNR and forestry divisions, are forming a wildfire preparedness working group. And, we want to learn, obviously, from what has happened with Maui. And so the more we can do to prepare for such disasters ahead of time, it is very much top of mind for us and very important for the administration, as well as for Governor Green's office. So just some of the highlights that are happening at the moment at City Hall. I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Kerry. Any questions for Mayor Belangiardi's office this evening? Any questions online? Okay, if not, thank you, Kerry. Appreciate it. Moving on to Council District 8, Councilmember Okimoto.
Good evening, Chair,
Evening.
members of the board, Jamie from
Evening.
Councilmember Okimoto's office. Councilmember Okimoto just returned from the Republic of Korea in honor of the Seoul and Honolulu sister city relationship. One of the interesting things that came out of that visit was they have their version of the Joint Traffic Management Center there in Seoul. So they're gonna take some of what they learned in Honolulu or in Seoul and see how they can apply it here in Honolulu, since it's such a huge metropolitan area. Council member unable to attend tonight. She's still adjusting to the jet lag and the time zone, but she did attend a groundbreaking for an affordable housing for seniors project in Aiea, located at the former Aiea sugar mill. This project is backed by the city and it's on city and county land, financed through the HHFDC and private financing. That will put 140 affordable housing units on the market when it's completed. Following up on rehabilitation of streets for Mililani, as I may have mentioned, phase 24A contract has been awarded to Road Builders Corporation. No update for that phase. That's for Makaikai Street area and Lehiva Drive. Contract executed on June 30th, with the project to be handed off to construction shortly. For phase 24B and 24C, those are in the project planning and design phase. The second phase of that should be completed in the second quarter of 2024. That's for Ainamakua Drive area. Pending any questions, I'll stand on our written report.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Any questions for Councilmember Okimoto's office?
Thank you.
Thank you. Council District 2, Councilmember Wire. Kelly?
Hi, good evening, Chair, members of the board, Kelly Anaya from Councilmember Matt Wire's office. Thank you for having me. Just a couple updates, legislative updates. Councilmember did introduce resolution as part of an emergency preparedness package, I should state. Resolution 23239. It was co-introduced with Chair Waters. Unfortunately, the EMLA committee was canceled today, so it was not heard. This resolution would initiate a charter amendment to add certain minimum qualifications for the Director of Emergency Management position. Resolution 23240 that Director Castle had mentioned was co-introduced with Budget Chair Cordero, which does request the city administration to present an annual budget recommendation to address the long-term emergency preparedness. I believe this was reported out for adoption in today's budget committee. And then the last one is resolution 23241, which was co-introduced with Public Safety Chair Okimoto, which urges the city administration to establish a working group to provide recommendations on long-term emergency preparedness regarding residential housing. This resolution will be heard on Thursday in the Public Safety Committee at 1 p.m. Councilmember would also like to announce that he's thrilled that Bill 46 related to flavored tobacco has passed. If you have any questions for Councilmember, I'd be happy to take them back for him.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions for Councilmember Wire's office this evening? Anyone online? Okay, thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Senator Dela Cruz's office. you have a representative online?
Hello.
Hi, Malcolm.
Hello, Chair and members of the board. Just wanted to make one announcement to you folks this month. I'm going to drop a senator's newsletter in the chat. He just wanted to announce to you all that the coconut rhinoceros beetle, this has been a big issue for us for a while now, but recently it's come up again just because it has crossed over into his district. Earlier this month, we were on Royal Palm Drive. The CRB, these beetles have started to kill those palm trees, which have a lot of historic value to that community. And recently, we were told that in the agricultural park, this has gotten much worse. So we are planning on being out there sometime later this month or early in November to see what the DOA, the University of Hawaii, and DLNR can do to better coordinate this effort. But to you all, the best thing that you can do to help contain this outbreak is to check your properties. Apparently, the larva of the beetle it harvests in anything like mulch, compost, rich soil, stumps, dead trees, plant waste piles, and being able to eradicate them, of course, at this stage in the life cycle has been the most effective in containing the outbreak. So please, when you go home, when you have time, please do this. It is very important to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Any questions for Senator De La Cruz's office?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Teresa.
I just wanted not so much get a take on, but so currently there's the Waihoa Public Library concern that governor may not sign to release the 42.5 million to build the new library, which is adjacent currently to the up and coming Waihoa Civic Center project, which will encompass a very large amount of different state and city government facilities. Has there been any discussion, and I know you won't have the answer tonight, but has there been any discussion on, I guess, taking a look again at the Waihoa pedestrian bridge and bike path bridge that Senator had gotten funding for? I believe the last number was 35 million for a bridge that many in the community was not in favor of, because and that includes the Whitmore division of the community for Waihoa, based on the area that it was going to be placed in and the lack of community support, because folks really weren't going to utilize it. I'm wondering if there's a balance between the two. I know that money has been released, but that's 35 million for something that may not be a project that's worthwhile. I guess I'm curious for the community, would the senator propose to support, putting that back in to offset the 7.5 million more that would need to be released to balance out that 42.5 million for the Waihoa Public Library? I just want to make it a point. I know here in Mililani, and I'm in Launani Valley, so our students go to Lelehua High School, Wheeler, et cetera. So our students utilize Waihoa Public Library and the facilities in that area. It's right down the hill from the high school. And I think we can't forget that that's something that we in our valley would need to support to maintain that facility. So I want to make sure it's known for our community here at our neighborhood board that, there is a sign off for the project, which is by this Friday, October 20th. And it would behoove me to not mention that you can send in, to the governor, either by email or by phone, contacting the governor to please release that funding to sign off on that. But again, I would like to take it back to Senator's office to see, there's this $35 million pedestrian bridge that isn't being supported and really would probably be underutilized by its community members. based on the feedback provided at all the different community meetings to offset to something that is usable and is needed going forward in building that community civic center and the other academy, the food service academies and everything else that the high school is now going to be utilizing in the projects that the state has facilitated. So I'd like to bring that back. But of course, like I said, making sure that folks know there is a Save Waihewa Library campaign going on right now for governor to sign on those funds. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you for your question. I'll bring this, your concern back to David and Senator. It hasn't been discussed as far as I'm concerned, at least with me, but I will, make it a point. And yes, you are correct. There is a campaign going on. Our team today was out in Wahiawa handing out flyers to get the community to get the governor to release the funds. So, alrighty. Thank you, everyone.
Any other questions for Senator's office this evening? Anyone online? Okay, thank you, Malcolm. Moving on to District 38, Representative Matsumoto's office. Anyone online or there?
Hi, I'm Sharon Klaproth, representing Representative Matsumoto. It's my first time here in front of the microphone, so hello and lovely to see you all tonight. I just wanted to go through Representative Matsumoto's newsletter, which I believe we have provided an online version. So Rep Matsumoto has had a lot of involvement in the Mililani community this month with the Mililani High School Homecoming Parade. She's also attended the Mililani High School luncheon and so it's been quite active, and the homecoming game, which was quite outstanding this past Saturday. So we have a lot of information in there, and Representative Matsumoto annually does a Capitol talk and tour at the Capitol, and she had a great many constituents come from Mililani. We had over 60 attend, and maybe some weren't able to find parking, so we need to do a better job next year. But we had over 60 people come, and we were able to show them the entire Capitol, go into the governor's office, lieutenant governor's office. They were able to meet the lieutenant governor. She was by chance there and was able to address them, have photos. It was really quite lovely, and give them a bit of an explanation of the legislative process and get them involved. So it was really good, and we're providing resources. So if anybody ever wants like how to contribute or have your voice be heard, we can provide those resources, and we're working on that currently. So that was really lovely. And coming up this Saturday, there is the YMCA trunk and treat, and Rep Matsumoto will also be there in full force with her family, all dressed up to the nines. So that should be a lot of fun. And so we want to encourage everybody to come along to that. And just lastly, being part of the wildfire working groups, we know we've had some requests about being prepared for potential fires. So we have some literature there connected about how to prepare your home for wildfires. And as we continue to get information, we will continue to give and provide that information. So always feel free to reach out to our office. We want to be a source of information for this community, and it's our honor. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Representative Matsumoto's office this evening? Anyone online? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to District 46, Representative Peruso. Hey, Amy.
Chair
Hi.
and board members,
Well-
nice to see you. Okay, can I start with one item that was a question in a previous presentation really quickly before I talk about my stuff?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the issue of the Wahiawa Library, I'm so grateful that that was brought up. Thank you, Teresa. because we were just informed by the governor that the funds don't actually lapse on the 20th. That was a artificial deadline that had been imposed by the DOE for themselves. It was their own internal deadline, and it was not related to our release of funds. So we do have until June 30th, 2024 to make sure that those funds are released and allocated in the appropriate way. And I do appreciate that conversation about the pedestrian bridge. But I just wanted to make sure that the community knows, especially if people are out like knocking on doors, that is no longer a really pressing issue. We have until June 30th, 2024. So putting that to the side, I want to talk a little bit about the work I've been doing since we last spoke. First, the two working groups, the wildfire prevention working group and the environmental remediation working groups. The work is continuing apace. We are in the process of producing a draft report, which we'll release to the public for comment and have hearings. And those reports are going to be the basis for our legislative agenda for this coming session, or part of the legislative agenda. So I hope that folks can weigh in, and I'll share summaries of our recommendations at the next meeting. And then folks can decide if this is something that they want to weigh in on. And I want to quickly talk about something we're doing here in Wahiawa, which is somewhat unprecedented in our disaster preparedness. We had, a couple years ago, we had, as you know, gone through the HARP process, the Hawaii Hazard Awareness and Resilience Program. And we had a group of community leaders, and we went through the whole process, and we got our 55-page plan approved. And now we're actually drilling down to do the neighborhood level work. So we're identifying about 30 community leaders in neighborhoods. So these natural configurations where people are connected to each other because they're neighbors. And we're distributing walkie-talkies because, at least in Wahiawa, everything is above ground. But then also when the cell towers go out, we want to be able to communicate with each other to let folks know, is it safe to try to egress? What is the current situation? So we're going to have a decentralized off-grid communication system as part of our HARP team organizing. And I want to encourage folks from Launani Valley, if they would like to be included. Right now it's Wahiawa and Whitmore Village, because those are the folks who helped create the plan. But if there are folks in Launani Valley who would like the valley to be included, please reach out to me. We're certainly open to that and would very much support it, because you are even more isolated. And I guess the last thing I want to add is I've been just spending the interim doing my homework. So as the chair of higher education, I realized that even as someone who is a proud alum, I don't know enough about the UH system. So I've been making it a point to visit every single one of the 10 campuses multiple times, having conversations with faculty and students, and really seeing the facilities. And I just will note that the condition of especially our CTAR facilities is tragic. So that's my main takeaway so far. And also that the faculty are incredibly dedicated, and the students are so, I don't know, fun to talk to, but also have issues that we really need to address to fully support them. So that's all I have to share. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So, thank you, Amy. Any questions for Representative Caruso's office this evening?
Chair, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Teresa.
Thanks for the clarification with regard to that deadline. It makes me feel much better. I don't have to go crazy this week. I'm just wondering, with regards to the emergency plans, walkie-talkies are great. Has there been conversation about ham radio options or locating those that have licenses or can operate stations? I do have an amateur extra license, so I can actually run the gamut of the entire Yeah, that was back in the day when I worked for the Blood Bank of Hawaii. So back in the day, Morse code testing. But I think finding those folks, especially in Waihawa, there's that little niche of folks that may be able to step up and at least lend their licenses. Like I can't remember what to do at this point, but I do have a valid license still. I renewed it, so it's another 10 years. So, but knowing that like in my valley, we don't have infrastructure. Like I can't get anybody but Oceanic to have internet because Hawaiian Telecom won't put anything in. Even phone, just general phone lines, there's issues because we don't have the infrastructure from them. So that's a big issue. I don't think people realize that we would be disconnected in the valley should something happen because we just don't have that infrastructure built in and they're not planning on it anytime soon. But I just wanted to point that out that maybe the next step would be to identify folks in the community that would have that as a backup plan too, or who has the equipment to run radio stations in that sense.
Yeah, I really appreciate that insight and that comment because I know so little about that kind of communication that I did reach out to the ham radio operators in the area, and I was really blessed to be supported by a couple of really strong operators coming out of Whitmore Village. And they are the ones who helped me kind of talk through the best plan for the community. So we're going to have them as our central communication hub through which all the communications flow. But the community members, because we can't expect all of those people to go through ham operating. I mean, you've done it, I haven't done it, to get that training just so that they can be ready in case of an emergency. So we're gonna use a walkie-talkie system, but definitely buttressed by the ham radio operators. Such a good idea.
Okay, any other questions for Representative Peruso? Amy, the funding for the new library,
Yes.
is that all construction or is that the total project cost?
That's construction, if I remember correctly. I'm not I don't remember if that includes, are you asking like whether or not it includes furniture and?
No, planning and design, all
Oh,
that kind of stuff.
I think it's yeah, I'm not sure. I wouldn't be able to answer that with any.
Yeah, so the governor's issue is, in the past, we've issued appropriated money and he's released funds for stuff, but the money just sits there for a while until they're actually ready to start doing something.
Yeah.
Planning and design can take, the DOE a year and a half, and yet they ask for the entire project money up front. We're not in that cash position any longer.
Yeah.
So I think if the project can be split up to where we can tell the governor, hey, this amount of money, they're ready to go, they need it, and they can start like now.
Yeah.
Then I think he would be a little bit more prone to release that portion of the money and then wait for, subsequent funding to be released at a later date.
Yeah, I mean, I support design build because it's more effective if you're designing and building at the same time. You're not designing and then coming back, and then while you're building, there are issues that come up and you have to go back to the design phase. Like that's just not efficient. And I do think that I'm going to continue to pressure the governor to get started on that project because I don't want it to fall to the wayside. So I hear what you're saying, like just because our actual deadline is June 30th, 2024, it doesn't mean that we should not have that conversation and not encourage the governor to release the funds because we do need to get that started.
Yeah, or at least a portion of it, and then he can release the rest later.
Yeah, and I just think that like right now we're in a difficult fiscal situation because of the Maui wildfires. So I think the governor, I am not opposed to that approach of just taking a beat, seeing how those federal funds that are coming in if they're going to be able to reimburse the funds that we're expending. So just to get a lay of the fiscal landscape before allocating money for, multiple other projects. So, yeah, I think it's complicated, but I think that now the governor understands like that the community very much supports the library project. So
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Amy.
thank you.
Take care. All right, next is District 37, Representative LaChica. Hi, Trish. Good evening.
Aloha, Chair.
Aloha.
Aloha, members. Trish here. Our September-October newsletter was shared last month. Chair Hazama, if you want a printed copy, I can send one over, but I believe it's linked in the minutes from last month as well. But some new things we were working on. First, I represent Core Ridge as well. So we did a park blessing for the Kalahiki Ola Park. There were over 1,000 families that attended, and it's a 4-acre park with a very nice playground, beautiful views, and it's going to be in an area that they're probably going to put a lot of community events in the future. It's going to be adjacent to one of the shopping centers. I believe there will be like 2 areas where there will be shopping centers in Coral Ridge. They're also, if I would encourage you to drive through Coral Ridge in the evening, they're very legit with their Halloween decorations. It looks like they're trying to compete with Mililani Mauka for trick-or-treating this year. I did get to attend for the very first time the homecoming parade as well as the games, and truly enjoyed that. Our family will be participating in the YMCA trunk or treat as well. The 2 working groups I'm a part of include the schools working group, so addressing the displacement of students and staff, being able to build a temporary school, and then the other one is jobs and employment, so really looking at restarting the economy and then assisting businesses with reopening. It's been really, really difficult. Our jobs working group will be doing a visit to Lahaina next week, and just to hear directly from the businesses and kind of what they're struggling with, and determine like the gaps. But we are in writing mode, so the first drafts of our working groups are due next week. The first draft will be released November 1st, and so you'll be seeing public hearing notices after then. And then nothing. We did celebrate somebody from her daughter who lives in Mililani Mauka requested a centenarian celebration and certificate. So we have somebody in the community who actually she's already 102 years old. They didn't know that we could celebrate, being a centenarian. But beautiful Filipina lady who still likes to work in her yard every day. So that was a couple of days ago. So I'll be posting pictures of that soon. And then we're also writing bills. If my first bill came back, which is on school bus access, and kind of establishing some standards so that what we experienced this year hopefully doesn't happen again. And if there's any interest in other policy that you'd like for me to work on from the community, please let me know. We did work on a constituent request. So the median Meheula Parkway, where the on-ramp, off-ramp is. And so there was some of back and forth because we didn't know there was grass and there was like some invasive species growing in the median. It was an African tulip, according to our constituent, but by taps and apps. And so we thought it was city, and then city said it was MTA, and then MTA said it's actually Department of Transportation. And so all of that area is now clear and the grass is cut, and so it looks pretty again. And then finally, just as a reminder, you have 2 more weeks for the Filipino American History Month. I've been attending quite a few events as one of the Filipino legislators, but please support Filipino businesses, buy some local Filipino food this month. And that's it for me, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Trish. Any questions for Representative LaChica this evening? Anyone online? Trish, you mentioned Core Ridge.
Yes.
So Core Ridge is supposed to have an elementary school built. do you know what the trigger is for that school for them to start?
Yeah, we're waiting for my official briefing from them. So that's happening next week. And so I'll get back to you, Chair, next month on that. But they're gonna present the master plan and then the plans for all the commercial areas as well as the facilities, the public facilities that's gonna be built.
Maybe yeah, after you get your thing, then maybe they can come to the board and present that.
Yeah, that would be good. I'll put in a request.
All right. All right. Thank you, Trish.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, board members, to approval of our September 19th, 2023 board minutes. Any comments or corrections on the minutes as presented? Seeing none, any objections to adopting the minutes? Seeing no objections, any abstentions? Seeing no abstentions, the minutes have been adopted. Oh, excuse me, go ahead. We okay? Okay. Moving on to board reports. Central Patsy T. Mink, Central Oahu Regional Park. Do we have a report?
No report.
Okay. Moving on to committees. Education. I don't see Member Melendra's in attendance. Military and Civil Defense. Okay. Parks and Recreation. Any report?
No report.
Planning, Permitting, and Zoning.
No report.
I have no transportation report. Recognition, any further recognition, Alice? Oops. You okay?
No.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any announcements this evening? Okay, hearing none, our next board meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 21st at 7 p.m. at Mililani Mauka Elementary School and via WebEx. Being no further board business this evening, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.